Every man desires power. Some seek to lead armies, others to govern nations, and some merely wish to command respect in their homes or in the marketplace. Yet all are plagued by the same question: should I strive to be loved, or should I ensure that I am feared? Today, we solve this dilemma. Eternal problem of power, for affection fades, but fear endures. And thus, we arrive at what I call the prince's dark law. Throughout all of history, there has been one question that lingers in the mind of every ruler, every commander, every ambitious man who seeks to climb higher than the rest. It is the same question that tormented emperors of Rome, princes of Italy, and warlords of the East. The question is this: to rule effectively, to command loyalty, to ensure that your power does not slip from your hands, must you strive to be loved, or must you demand to be feared? This is not a mere philosophical curiosity. It is not a matter of sentiment or moral preference. No, this dilemma is the very foundation of politics, of governance, of survival itself. A man who answers it incorrectly will see his throne stolen, his soldiers deserting, his allies betraying him, and his enemies rising from every shadow. For the truth is this: power is never stable, and those who hold it must constantly fight to preserve it. And so, the question of love and fear is not a debate for scholars. It is the beating heart of rulership, the fulcrum upon which empires rise or collapse. Consider how fragile love truly is. A people may cheer their ruler in the streets, singing his name when he provides them prosperity. They may claim loyalty, swearing devotion when the harvests are plentiful, when peace keeps their bellies full, and when fortune blesses their homes. But what happens when fortune shifts, as it always does? What happens when famine creeps into the land, when wars drain the treasury, when disease or misfortune strikes? That same love, so loudly professed, evaporates into the air. Those same voices that once shouted praises will now whisper curses. And those hands that once reached out to bless the prince will close into fists, ready to strike him down. Love is conditional. Love is dependent on circumstance. It exists so long as it is convenient for the one giving it. And that, dear listener, is its greatest weakness. For love belongs to the giver, not the receiver. A ruler cannot seize it by force, nor guarantee it will endure. It rests in the hearts of others, and the hearts of men are as fickle as the winds that blow across the sea. But fear is of a different substance entirely. Fear can be crafted. Fear can be controlled. Fear can be commanded by the ruler himself. Unlike love, fear does not depend upon the goodwill of others. It depends upon the consequences you create, the punishments you enforce, the unshakable knowledge that disobedience carries a cost too heavy to bear. Fear anchors loyalty where affection would falter. A soldier who fears his commander will not flee the battlefield, for he knows that cowardice will earn him a swifter and harsher death than combat itself. A subject who fears his prince will not rise in rebellion, for he understands that rebellion guarantees his ruin, while obedience guarantees survival. And so we arrive again at the dilemma. Should you build your rule upon the shifting sands of love, or upon the immovable stone of fear? The rulers of history have wrestled with this decision. Some chose the path of affection, seeking to endear themselves to their people, imagining that gratitude and kindness would hold the hearts of men forever. They forgot that men are ungrateful by nature, that they remember their needs more than your generosity, that they repay mercy with demands for more mercy, until they no longer respect the hand that feeds them. Such rulers often died abandoned, betrayed by the very people whose love they trusted. Others chose the path of fear. They understood that power is not a friendship, nor a marriage of equals, but a hierarchy enforced by necessity. They cloaked themselves in severity, not cruelty for its own sake, but discipline sharpened like a blade. These rulers were not always loved, but they were obeyed. And obedience, though cold and silent, has kept more thrones intact than love ever has. This is the eternal dilemma of power, the balance between love and fear. A man may wish to have both, to be adored by his people while also commanding their dread. And indeed, if fate allows it, to possess both is ideal. But fate rarely grants such fortune. More often, a choice must be made. And when that choice arrives, when the knife is at your throat, when the conspiracies begin to stir, when the loyalty of men wavers, then the truth will reveal itself. Better to be feared than to be loved. Love is the sweetest chain by which men imagine they can bind others, yet it is also the weakest. It appears strong because it glitters with warmth and devotion, but at the first sign of pressure, it snaps. Every prince, every ruler, every leader is tempted to rely on it, for what is more flattering than the adoration of the people, to walk through streets and hear your name shouted with joy, to be embraced not by fear, but by affection, to believe that men will protect you because they cherish you. This is the dream of the benevolent ruler, the fantasy of kings who imagine themselves fathers to their people and guardians of their welfare. But history shows us the cruel truth. Love cannot be trusted. Why? Because love is built not upon necessity, but upon desire, and desire is fleeting. Men love so long as it costs them nothing. They love when they receive benefits, when the ruler's generosity fills their hands with coin, when his mercy frees them from punishment, when his victories bring them comfort. Yet the moment that same generosity wanes, the moment resources grow scarce, or the ruler can no longer give as freely, their love fades. Gratitude is shallow, and men rarely remember past gifts when present needs go unfulfilled. They will say, yes, he once helped us, but what has he done for us today? And with that, affection evaporates. Consider the nature of loyalty born of love. It is not absolute but conditional. It depends on circumstance, and when circumstances shift, so too does loyalty. A people may love their king when the treasury is full and war is distant, but let that king demand sacrifice, higher taxes, blood for the army, obedience to strict laws, and suddenly that love transforms into resentment. They will whisper that he has grown cruel, that he no longer cares for them, that he has betrayed their trust. Yet it was never betrayal, only the illusion that love could last beyond convenience. Men, by their very nature, are selfish. They cloak this selfishness in the language of affection, but peel back the surface and you find calculation. A man may say he loves his Lord, but what he means is that he is content so long as his own life is made easier. He loves the protection, not the protector. He loves the benefits, not the benefactor. And if a rival appears, promising greater rewards, that same love migrates effortlessly to a new master. Thus, the love of the people is not a fortress. It is a campfire, glowing bright for a moment, then dying when the wood is gone. History is littered with rulers who mistook this fire for something eternal. Kings who poured their wealth into their subjects, who offered mercy to their enemies, who forgave betrayal in hopes of securing affection. And what was their reward? Abandonment. When the hour of danger arrived, when invaders pressed upon their borders or conspirators rose from within their courts, those same subjects who once proclaimed their love fled. They abandoned their ruler because love carries no duty, no burden, no weight of obligation. Men feel free to abandon those they claim to love when it suits their survival. The frailty of love is not only in the people, but also in allies and even in soldiers. An ally may profess friendship, but friendship tied only to affection will collapse the moment another prince offers him more land or greater profit. A soldier may swear his loyalty out of admiration, but admiration fades the first time he goes unpaid or feels neglected. And then he deserts. This is why a wise ruler does not rely on admiration alone, but binds men with necessity, with fear of consequence, with discipline sharper than steel. And yet, many rulers cling to the illusion of love because it is intoxicating. To be loved is to feel safe, to feel secure, to believe that affection will shield you from harm. But this is a lie whispered by fortune to the naive. For affection does not shield a man from daggers, nor from conspiracies, nor from rebellion. Affection vanishes at the very moment it is most needed. When enemies gather, when death approaches, when power trembles, men do not ask themselves, "Whom do I love?" They ask, "Whom do I fear? And whom must I obey if I wish to live?" This is why love is frail. It demands nothing, it costs nothing, and therefore it can vanish without guilt. A subject may betray a ruler he loves and still tell himself he has done nothing wrong, for he was forced by circumstance. But fear does not allow such excuses. Fear binds men to action because disobedience carries a price they cannot afford. The frailty of love, then, lies in its dependency upon the will of others. It is never in the ruler's control. He may strive to earn it, he may sacrifice to secure it, he may pour out mercy and generosity like a river, but he cannot guarantee its permanence. Love rests in the hearts of men, and the hearts of men are fickle, ungrateful, selfish, and changeable. If love is a bond of silk, fragile and easily broken, then fear is a chain of iron. Where affection weakens under the weight of misfortune, fear remains firm. Men can forget the kindness you once showed them. They can dismiss the generosity you offered. They can betray the affection they once swore with a smile. But they cannot so easily forget fear. Fear lingers. Fear takes root in the mind like a shadow that does not fade, even when the sun has gone. It follows them in silence. It governs their choices. It whispers in every decision. This is why fear, not love, is the true foundation of power. Men obey when they fear. They act with caution when they fear. They hesitate to betray when they fear. They may dislike you. They may curse your name in their hearts, but they will still kneel, still obey, still march when commanded. For men are guided less by affection than by necessity, and nothing is more necessary than the instinct to preserve one's life. Fear touches that deepest instinct. It binds men not through choice, but through survival itself. Look at the soldier in battle. If he loves his commander, perhaps he fights bravely when fortune is with him, when victory seems near. But if the enemy overwhelms, if hope begins to fade, that same love will not hold him in place. He will flee, justifying to himself that he cannot die for affection. But imagine now a soldier who fears his commander more than he fears the enemy. He knows that retreat will mean certain death, that disobedience will bring harsher punishment than the enemy's sword. He will fight, even when hope is lost, because fear drives him more powerfully than affection ever could. In this way, fear preserves armies where love would see them scatter. And what of subjects? A people who love their ruler may sing his praises while the treasury overflows, but when hardship strikes, their love vanishes like mist. Yet a people who fear their ruler obey even when famine spreads, even when suffering abounds, because they dread the punishment that rebellion would bring. Fear does not depend on fortune's gifts. It does not rise and fall with the seasons. It is consistent, reliable, permanent so long as it is carefully maintained. This is the great strength of fear. It is within the ruler's control. Love rests in the hearts of others, but fear is forged by the ruler's hand. It can be shaped, measured, sharpened like a blade. A prince decides how much fear to instill, when to show severity, when to strike swiftly, when to remind his people of the consequences of disobedience. Unlike love, which depends upon the fickle will of others, fear is commanded. It is the ruler's weapon, and with it he can enforce order in times when love would fail him. Do not confuse fear with cruelty for its own sake. A wise ruler understands that terror without reason breeds hatred, and hatred can be dangerous. The purpose of fear is not endless cruelty, but discipline, stability, and control. Men should fear the punishment of disobedience more than they resent the hand that delivers it. This is the art of rulership, to inspire enough fear that loyalty is secure, but not so much hatred that rebellion festers in the shadows. Properly balanced, fear becomes a shield that protects the throne more surely than 1,000 voices of affection. Consider also the permanence of fear compared to love. Affection fades with time, with distance, with changing circumstance. But once fear is planted, it seldom disappears. A man who has once felt the weight of punishment does not forget it. He remembers it when he sleeps, when he speaks, when he acts. It shapes his behavior long after the moment has passed. And because fear is tied to self-preservation, it endures in a way love never can. Men may betray one they love when tempted by advantage, but they rarely betray one they fear. unless they believe escape from consequence is certain, and certainty of escape is rare, for the wise ruler ensures that punishment reaches even those who think themselves beyond his grasp. Allies too are bound more securely by fear than by love. An ally who merely loves your friendship may betray you when fortune shifts, when a rival offers him greater reward. But an ally who fears your power, who dreads the ruin that betrayal would bring, hesitates, calculates, and more often than not chooses loyalty. In this way, fear is not only a tool for commanding subjects, but also for binding allies, ensuring that even in their ambition, they remember the danger of crossing you. Fear also corrects the great weakness of men, their tendency toward ingratitude. For no matter how much you give, how much you sacrifice, men will always demand more. Gratitude dies quickly, but fear enforces obedience even without gratitude. A people may resent your rule, but if they fear you, they will not rise against you. And a ruler does not need to be loved by his subjects in order to rule them. He needs only to be obeyed. Obedience secures stability, stability secures power, and power ensures survival. This is why fear is reliable. It does not ask, it does not beg, it does not depend on the mercy of others. It is commanded, it is enforced, it is anchored in the unchanging truth of human nature. Men seek to live, and they will avoid anything that threatens that life. The prince who understands this, who masters this art, holds in his hands not the fragile threads of love, but the unbreakable chains of authority. There exists a law of power so dark, so uncomfortable, that few dare to speak it openly. It is whispered in courts, understood by tyrants, denied by the weak, but practiced by every ruler who has endured the storms of fortune. This law is simple, and it is cruel. Authority cannot survive on affection alone. Authority must be rooted in consequence, enforced by fear, guarded by dread. This is the dark law of authority, the unspoken truth that separates rulers who endure from rulers who perish. What is authority without fear? It is an illusion, a crown of paper placed on the head of a man who believes himself king, but cannot command obedience. Without fear, commands become requests, laws become suggestions, loyalty becomes optional. The subjects obey when it suits them and ignore when it does not. And the prince who mistakes affection for power soon discovers that his throne rests upon shifting sands, ready to collapse the moment fortune withdraws her smile. The dark law of authority declares that a ruler must always ensure obedience through the weight of consequence. Men must not only know what is permitted, they must dread what is forbidden. For fear does what love cannot. It compels action when desire falters. It enforces discipline when affection weakens. It binds men to loyalty even when their hearts long to wander. Fear creates certainty in a world where love is fragile and gratitude fleeting. A ruler who embraces this law understands that mercy must always be cloaked in severity. To show mercy without the capacity for punishment is weakness, and weakness invites contempt. But to show mercy while possessing the power to destroy, that inspires obedience, for men understand that your mercy is a choice, not a necessity. They know you could crush them if you willed it, and so your restraint becomes more feared than another man's cruelty. The dark law teaches that authority thrives not by eliminating fear, but by balancing it with justice, ensuring that men dread your punishments yet respect the reason behind them. Observe how contempt is the true enemy of every ruler. Hatred may burn hot, but it often destroys itself in reckless rebellion. Contempt, however, corrodes slowly, undermining authority until nothing remains. A ruler who is too merciful, too eager to be loved, too hesitant to punish, invites contempt. His subjects no longer fear his wrath, no longer tremble at his commands, and soon they mock his authority in whispers. From mockery grows defiance, and from defiance comes open rebellion. Thus, the prince must always guard against contempt, for contempt destroys more rulers than hatred ever has. The dark law of authority does not call for endless cruelty. It demands precision. Punishments must be swift, memorable, and final. A prince who dithers, who threatens but does not act, undermines himself. The people learn that his words are empty, that his authority is hollow. But when punishment is delivered without hesitation, when the consequences of disobedience are visible and undeniable, then fear is renewed and loyalty is reinforced. Men may curse such a prince in private, but they will obey him in public, and in obedience lies the stability of power. Consider the ruler who faces conspiracy within his court. If he responds with forgiveness, imagining that love will secure loyalty, he invites greater betrayal. For the conspirators see weakness, and weakness tempts ambition. But if he responds with decisive punishment, silencing not only the traitor, but also those who dared to whisper alongside him, then fear spreads. Men weigh the cost of conspiracy against the certainty of punishment, and most will choose silence over ruin. This is the dark law in action, authority preserved not by affection, but by consequence. And yet, the law demands balance. For fear untempered by wisdom breeds not obedience but desperation. A people who live only in terror may one day prefer death to servitude, and desperation can lead to revolt as surely as contempt. Therefore, the wise prince wields fear like a skilled surgeon wields a blade, cutting only where necessary, sparing where possible, never indulging in cruelty for its own sake. Authority is preserved not by terror alone, but by the careful blending of dread and order, fear and justice, severity and mercy. This is why the dark law of authority is both feared and denied. It reveals that the ruler must be both guardian and executioner, both protector and punisher. To rule is not to be adored, but to be obeyed. To govern is not to rely on the shifting tides of love, but to anchor power in the unchanging certainty of fear. Those who reject this truth in pursuit of affection are devoured by the very people they sought to please. Those who accept it, who master it, who live by it, endure when others fall. And so, we return to the question that has haunted rulers across centuries. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? We have seen the eternal dilemma of power, where every prince must choose the foundation upon which to build his rule. We have exposed the frailty of love, that fragile bond so easily broken by greed, by famine, by ambition, by the selfish nature of men. We have revealed the reliability of fear, the chain that binds men not by choice, but by necessity, commanding their obedience even when affection has vanished. And we have uncovered the dark law of authority, the law that insists a prince must cloak his mercy in dread, ensuring that loyalty flows not from the heart, but from the instinct of survival. This is the truth too many rulers are unwilling to face. Love is a luxury, fear is a necessity. Love will abandon you when fortune turns, but fear will guard you even in the darkest hour. The wise prince accepts this, not as cruelty, but as the price of stability, the cost of power, the law of authority itself. To rule is not to be adored, it is to be obeyed.